The night began with silence, the kind of silence that feels heavy before something historic happens. No playful smiles, no warm greetings, no familiar boyish laughter that fans around the world had grown up with. When Jungkook finally stepped into the light, something was different. It wasn't just the styling, the sharp tailoring, or the way his shadow stretched across the stage. It was the air around him, cold, controlled, unforgiving. In that moment, millions of fans realized they were about to witness the coldest performance Jungkook had ever delivered in his entire career. For years, Jungkook had been known as the Golden Maknae, the warm center of BTS, the artist whose eyes often sparkled with emotion even before he sang a single note. He was passion, sincerity, and vulnerability wrapped into one. But that night, the warmth was gone intentionally. What replaced it was something sharper, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. This was not the Jungkook fans were used to. This was Jungkook reborn. As the music began, there was no dramatic build-up, no attempt to seduce the audience with charm. His movements were precise, almost surgical. Every step landed exactly where it needed to be, every glance cut through the camera like a blade. Fans watching live felt an unfamiliar chill run through them, not from fear but from awe. Jungkook wasn't trying to be liked in that performance. He wasn't asking for approval, he was commanding attention. What made this performance so shocking wasn't just its aesthetic, but the emotional distance Jungkook maintained from beginning to end. He didn't smile, he didn't soften his gaze. Even during moments that would usually invite emotional connection, he remained distant, as if locked inside a world no one else was allowed to enter. And somehow, that distance pulled viewers in even closer. Longtime ARMY immediately noticed the contrast. This was the same artist who once cried openly on stage, who spoke often about fear, pressure, and gratitude, yet here he was, standing tall, unflinching, eyes cold with purpose. It felt like watching someone who had walked through fire and emerged untouched, or perhaps transformed by it. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the performance spread like wildfire, accompanied by stunned reactions from fans who struggled to put their feelings into words. Many described the experience as unsettling in the best way possible. Others admitted they couldn't stop replaying certain moments, particularly the way Jungkook held eye contact with the camera, unblinking, unapologetic, almost daring the world to look away. This performance wasn't just cold, it was deliberate. Every element seemed carefully designed to strip away comfort and replace it with intensity. The lighting was harsh, emphasizing angles rather than softness. The choreography was restrained but powerful, focusing on control rather than expression. Even his breathing felt measured, as if emotion itself had been placed on lockdown. And that's what made it unforgettable. Behind the scenes, many fans began to speculate about what led Jungkook to this artistic shift. Was it a reflection of his growth, a response to years of expectations placed on his shoulders since adolescence, or was it a statement, a message to the industry and the world that he was no longer confined to a single image? Throughout BTS's career, Jungkook had evolved constantly, but never like this. This wasn't a gradual transition. It was a sharp turn executed without warning. One moment, fans thought they knew him. The next, they were faced with a version of Jungkook that felt almost untouchable. What made the performance even colder was his refusal to explain it. No lengthy interviews, no emotional confessions afterward, just silence. And in that silence, fans were left to sit with what they had seen, replaying it over and over, searching for meaning in every movement, every pause, every glance. Some noticed how his posture had changed, more grounded, more imposing. Others pointed out how he seemed completely unbothered by the massive audience, as if performing for himself rather than for millions. There was a maturity in that detachment, a quiet confidence that didn't need validation. Industry professionals couldn't ignore it either. Critics who had once praised Jungkook for his versatility now spoke of him as an artist who had mastered restraint. They described the performance as chilling, minimalist, and powerful, a rare combination that only seasoned performers could pull off without losing impact. And yet, beneath the cold exterior, there were moments, fleeting, almost invisible, where emotion threatened to break through. A clenched jaw, a brief tightening of the eyes. These tiny details made the performance even more haunting, suggesting that the coldness wasn't emptiness but control. Jungkook wasn't emotionless, he was choosing not to reveal it. Fans began to debate whether this was the most honest Jungkook had ever been on stage. By withholding warmth, by refusing to comfort the audience, he forced them to confront something deeper, the reality of growth, pressure, and the loneliness that can come with standing at the top. The performance also reignited conversations about Jungkook's position within BTS and the global music scene. No longer just the youngest member, no longer just the powerhouse vocalist, he stood as an artist fully aware of his influence and unafraid to wield it in unexpected ways. For newer fans, this performance served as a shocking introduction. For longtime ARMY, it felt like witnessing a turning point. The moment Jungkook stepped fully into his own, shedding expectations and redefining himself on his own terms. What made the coldness resonate so deeply was its authenticity. It didn't feel like a concept forced onto him. It felt like something he had been holding back, waiting for the right moment to release. And when he finally did, it was unstoppable. Even days later, discussions continued. Fans dissected every second, every frame, every breath. Some admitted they felt emotionally drained after watching it. Others said it inspired them, reminding them that growth often requires shedding comfort. Jungkook didn't just perform that night. He challenged perceptions. He rewrote narratives. He reminded the world that artistry isn't always about warmth and relatability. Sometimes it's about distance, discipline, and the courage to be misunderstood. In the end, the coldest performance of Jungkook's career may also be his most powerful. Not because it lacked emotion, but because it showed control over it. Not because it pushed fans away, but because it pulled them into a deeper, more complex understanding of who Jungkook is becoming. And as the lights faded and the stage went dark, one thing became clear: this wasn't a phase, it was a declaration. Jungkook had crossed into a new era, one defined not by comfort but by confidence. Not by warmth but by undeniable presence. Fans are still talking, still replaying, still feeling that chill. And perhaps that's exactly what Jungkook intended. The impact of that performance did not fade with time. Instead, it grew heavier, settling into the minds of fans like a slow, deliberate echo. The more people revisited it, the clearer it became that Jungkook wasn't simply performing a concept. He was confronting something, both within himself and in the way the world had come to see him. For years, Jungkook had carried an image that felt almost untouchable. Endlessly talented, endlessly kind, endlessly giving. The golden label followed him everywhere, praised and celebrated, but also quietly restrictive. Expectations clung to him like a second skin. He was supposed to shine, to smile, to reassure. And yet in that cold performance, Jungkook did none of those things. He stood still in his power and let the discomfort speak for itself. Fans began to notice how the performance lacked the usual cues of emotional release. There was no climactic high note designed to trigger cheers, no dramatic gesture asking for applause. Instead, Jungkook allowed the song to end abruptly, his expression unchanged, his body unmoving. The silence afterward felt intentional, almost confrontational. It was as if he was asking the audience without words, "Are you still here when I don't give you warmth?" That question lingered. Across fan communities, discussions deepened. Many ARMY confessed that the performance made them emotional in an unexpected way, not because it was sad but because it felt honest. Cold honesty can be unsettling, especially when it comes from someone you've watched grow up. Jungkook wasn't rejecting his past, he was expanding beyond it. Some fans pointed out that this performance mirrored the reality of adulthood, the moment when innocence gives way to clarity. Jungkook, who had debuted so young, had spent most of his life under constant observation. Every mistake magnified, every success celebrated. That coldness on stage felt like armor, carefully forged and finally worn. What truly shocked people was how comfortable he looked in that armor. His voice, too, carried a new weight, technically flawless as always, but emotionally restrained. Each note was delivered with precision rather than sentimentality. He didn't reach out vocally, he pulled inward. That restraint made listeners lean in, desperate to feel what he refused to give freely. Industry insiders quietly acknowledged that this was a risky move. Cold performances can alienate audiences. They can be misunderstood, but Jungkook seemed fully aware of that risk and unbothered by it. That confidence alone marked a new chapter in his career. Even his styling became a topic of intense analysis. Gone were soft fabrics and youthful silhouettes. Everything was sharp, clean, intentional, nothing moved without purpose. Fans described him as looking untouchable, distant, and dangerously calm. Words rarely associated with the Jungkook of earlier years.